From Iran to Syria to Lebanon to Netanyahu's indictment and the political upheaval in Israel, the region seems to be in turmoil. I discussed these issues with CBN senior editor John Waage and Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl in our studio. John and Julie, great to be with you. John, welcome back to Jerusalem. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Chris.
You know, we're living in historic times, diplomatically, politically. We may be on the verge of war in the Middle East. And we've just had these indictments against Israeli Prime Minister Beniamin Netanyahu. John, do you see any comparison between what's happening here in Jerusalem and what's happening on Washington, D.C.?
Absolutely, Chris. Just having flown in recently, the absolute obsession over impeachment, making it the #1 story by far, and Trump calling it a coup against him, and his supporters firmly believe that. You see the same thing with Benjamin Netanyahu after his indictment. He called it a coup, and his supporters fervently support him in fighting this.
Yeah.
And you've got the other side, and both the United States and Israel, saying, Our goal is to knock him out.
So what's next for Netanyahu? Where does this play out?
Well, as I understand it, the next thing is in the next 30 days, Netanyahu has to decide if he's going to waive his immunity as a minister of the Knesset. And typically, if a politician has been indicted, they do this, and that enables them to, fight the case without having to be a Knesset member. Netanyahu has the option of not doing that, of fighting it from his position as prime minister. That could take it to the high court, and that could extend the process longer and beyond the 30 days that we're talking about.
Certainly in uncharted waters, and Julie, diplomatically, history was made also this week. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo came out with that announcement that Jewish communities in the so-called West Bank are not illegal. We were out there in Gush Etzion following the prime minister as well.
Yeah.
How significant was that decision?
I think it's very significant because for the U.S., they've changed their policy completely. That really backs up Israel. Now, Israelis, they say, we don't really need somebody else to tell us. We already know that's ours, and that's why we're building there. So for them to have that kind of international backing, that just really changes the whole situation.
And we were there right now in what people describe as the biblical heartland, where so many things happen in the Bible. And up north on the Golan Heights, Iran shot 4 missiles into that northern part of Israel. How significant is this?
Well, this is also very significant. We were talking about how many things happened this week, and any one of these things could have been a headline for the week, but they all happened in the same week. So Iran fired 4 missiles at the Golan Heights. They were all intercepted, no damage, they didn't even change their schedules for the Israelis that next day. But the following day, Israel really struck back Iranian targets, and that's very significant. Some in Israel say, we're the only ones who are really fighting Iran. And that's significant.
Yeah, and they have a plan to have maybe 100,000 soldiers inside Syria, air bases, naval bases, all to come against the Jewish state. John, taking a wider picture, like a 30,000 feet view of the whole Middle East, there's so much turmoil in Iran, in Iraq, in Lebanon. What do you think's happening?
Yeah, and not to mention all the reporting that you've done and others on Syria.
That's right.
And the problems there with the withdrawal of U.S. troops. Lebanon has the biggest protest since 2009. From mid-October on, you've had hundreds of thousands in the streets. You've had banks closed. The raising of taxes has been an issue there. Also, anger at Hezbollah. And so you've got an Iran factor there. You look at Iran itself. The demonstrations are as big as they were 10 years ago. Again, 2009. People in the streets furious at the hike in gas prices and other things, and anger at the government. And so in Iraq, we've seen over 300 dead in just the last 3 months. That gets very little coverage in international news. So the region is in foment, without a doubt.
Right. Julie, last question to you in just the last few seconds. I've heard somebody say there's a political clock going on in Israel and a security clock. Would you say that maybe with all these threats, Israel might be on the verge of war?
We're definitely heading that way. Maybe not in the next few weeks, maybe not in the next few months, but I think also Israel's political uncertainty uncertainty has really kind of given rise maybe to around the region people thinking, it's unstable, it's not secure, so now's the time to attack.
Yeah, and certainly a time to be praying for the peace of Jerusalem and all the peoples in this region. Julie, John, great to be with you. John, come back soon.